Okay, I'll go. This is Mike Funk with David Weekley Homes. This is not my first meeting. And in terms of usage by David Weekley, we're all over the board. Most everything we'll talk about, we use somewhere, but there hasn't been a consensus. And one of the nice things about this meeting is we're in the process of building a consensus on where and what we want to do as a company focus, and at least on a regional level. So anyway, that's what be interested to see what Vladimir has to say. I haven't talked with him for a while, so looking forward to that.
I'll go ahead. My name is Craig Sy. I'm a program design manager for the GE's heat pump water heater, so I'm just assisting Dan today in the background.
Craig will answer all the tough questions that you guys will throw at me. That's really what Craig is saying.
I can go
I'll go ahead and go next. Oh, I was just going to say, my name is Melissa Hill. I'm the product marketing manager here at GE Appliances. And again, just here to support Dan and excited about our product launch.
And my name is Wei Wang, and I'm the product manager for commercial HVAC in GE. And also we're launching a product that also covers central heat pump water heaters, the commercial grade. So thanks, Dan, for inviting me to this meeting. I'm just listening here and learn something.
I'll jump in. Hey, everybody. My name is Jamie Lyons, representing the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home program. I've sat in on quite a few of these. I think they're a really good opportunity to have the communication among home builders about heat pump water heater implementation. We really like to keep our sort of fingers on the pulse to see how implementation is going, because lots and lots of Zero Ready homes now are implementing this technology. We want to see our builders succeed in doing so.
Hey everyone, this is Dean Campbell. I'm the technical manager for the Energy Star Single Family New Homes program. We had over 300,000 homes certified last year alone. And in our core program, we allow builders to choose whatever water heater will work best for them, as long as they can hit the overall efficiency target for the home. But for our Energy Star Next Gen program, which is a higher tier, we do actually require the use of heat pump water heaters. And partially, we've created that program to help builders get familiar with some of these technologies that are emerging or have emerged, and the builders may not be familiar with yet, but are likely to be using in the future. So happy to be joining this call. As I've participated in this group for a while, it's always something to learn here.
All right. Is there anyone else that we haven't heard from yet that would like to introduce themselves and say hello? All right. Well, I think what I'll do now is I'm going to open up a few slides here. And
Susan, it looks like Dean Potter just joined us.
Oh, super.
I apologize being late. I couldn't get off another meeting fast enough, but I'm here.
It's okay. We're glad you could join us. And we're just getting started here with some introductions. I'm going to go ahead and open up my slides. I think many of you probably noticed I did start the recording of our meeting. After our meeting, I'll send out an email with the recording and the presentation slides that we go over today. We have a lot of time today for you to hear from our presenters, interact, ask questions, provide feedback on how we can move forward with advanced water heating and new construction. And here's a quick look at our meeting agenda. We're going to be hearing about GE Appliances' new heat pump water heater technology coming up here in just a minute. Wanted to give a quick recap. I know there's been some great events happening in the first quarter of 2025, including the Hot Water Forum and the International Builders Show and the AHR Expo. I was lucky to attend the Hot Water Forum, and I heard a lot of different conversations about things that are happening in the industry, including changes, on the federal level, Also the growing heat pump efforts in the Northeast and several states, air quality management districts. I also heard that there are 22 states that have made bold advancements and goals with heat pumps. Joe Bachunas recently also published an article about new records being set with the sales of electric water heaters. With the new changes in standards, we're expecting that a lot of those those water heaters will be heat pumps to meet those new standards. And with that, we can get ready to go into our first presentation. Paul, is there anything else that you would like to add before?
You know, I was just going to add, I did get a chance to attend the HR Expo in Orlando. And what my takeaways were in the heat pump water heater world is that there are new brands coming in that were on display that are offering both singletary and split system options for home builders and existing residents as well, where space, noise sensitivities, weight of product, and such are all major considerations in these layouts. So I think that's some exciting new options that are coming in. Some new names that maybe you haven't heard of before that we're going to be highlighting. Obviously, we've got GE here with us today. Very excited to have them back in the marketplace and the offerings that they're introducing. And I know they've got a great relationship with home builders already in place. So this is a very important channel for them. So I think that the marketplace is really engaged and excited to see so much activity and new introduction into the space. So even though you know, we might all feel challenged at the federal level with changes that are happening, I don't think that has changed the minds of the manufacturers, of the stakeholders, of the pursuit of innovation and better performance in these products as we go forward. So we should all feel really good about that. So I'll leave it at that, Susan.
All right, thank you, Paul. I'm going to stop sharing those slides, and I'm going to go ahead and open up Dan's slides from GE. Give me just 1 second to pull those up.
And don't forget to share your sound too.
All right, my settings are the same as they were when we did our tech test, so hopefully that will continue to work for us.
Perfect.
All right, Dan, I'll hand the microphone over to you.
All right. Well, thank you. And again, Dan Capelle, I'm our Director of Product Management here at GE Appliances for our water heating business. And Paul, I'll touch on some of the comments you just made about, you know, GE's relationship with builders. Strong relationship there in the appliance world, and we're happy to be extending that into the water heating world as well now. So today, this is really our reintroduction of our GeoSpring heat pump water heater. So this will be our 4th generation technology we're bringing back. And we've made this thing better than before. It's more energy efficient. It's got more consumer-facing features on the product, easier to install for plumbers as well. So there's a lot of enhancements that we've made with this product that we're going to get into here. So let's go ahead and flip to the next page. Okay, so I wanted to kind of show you just a quick history of when we entered and kind of the different generations of product that we've had out there. If anybody's familiar with these. So Gen 1, we launched that back in 2008 timeframe. And then you can see we've been keep on enhancing the product since then up until our 4th generation on the far right-hand side. This is what we're getting ready to launch now into the market, and we're really excited to be back into this industry. We were one of the first ones out there with this kind of product. A little perspective on this, the early generations had an efficiency, a UEF number of about 2.3. It was great for back in the day, but we are far surpassing that now with our latest generation, and we're going to get into that shortly. But first, a little video. Right. Hey, Susan, before you advance to the next slide, I'm going to give Melissa Hill, who's on the call here, full credit for this. She's our senior marketing manager here, does a fantastic job pulling this kind of content together. Hopefully this video helps to simplify the heat pump water heater, and from our perspective, the capabilities that we're bringing with this latest generation. But like other manufacturers, this is a more technical product, and we're trying to make it a lot easier to understand. And I think this video just really knocked it out. Susan, Melissa did a fantastic job on this thing. So, all right, let's go on to the next slide. So, high level overview here of the product offering. So again, 4th generation launch of this heat pump water heater for us versus standard electric water heaters. This is 4.7 times more energy efficient than standard electric water heaters. From an efficiency perspective versus other heat.
Is everyone hearing the sound?
No, we lost Dan.
No,
That just cut out.
Danny, we lost your audio for some reason.
Can everybody hear me okay?
No, I'm sorry, we lost your sound there.
But now I can.
Yeah, now we hear you.
Yes.
Now you can. Okay.
You might just rewind.
I'll rewind and hit the top of the page here. How about that? So 4th generation, like we talked about, energy efficiency. So this heat pump that we're getting ready to launch is 4.7 times more energy efficient than standard electric water heaters. Okay. And if you compare our efficiency versus other heat pumps in the market, we're about 20% better than other heat pumps in the market. So we've really put a great product together from an efficiency perspective to address that side of things. Flex capacity. This is literally our integrated electronic control mixing valve that's inside the product, highlighted on the video that we just watched. The benefit with this mixing valve is that when you turn this mixing valve on, it will give you up to 60% more usable hot water. We've got a page on this. I'll go into a little more detail about the benefits for plumbers and everything else behind this as well. Smart HQ. So this is our app that controls the water heater. There's a lot of great features on the water heater itself, or you can use the Smart HQ app that we have as a GE Appliance business. This is the same app that we use across our appliances as well. So one common app will let you control your water heater or your refrigerator or your dishwasher. Leak detection. Leak detection is becoming a more standard feature when it comes to heat pump water heaters. We've taken leak detection to another level. We've got now wireless leak detection. I've got a page on that in here to kind of explain it, so I won't go into more details here. Flexible and easy installations. So what we mean by that is we've got 240 volt versions and we've got 120 volt versions of the heat pump water heater available. One thing that sets us aside is our 120 volt products are field convertible to 240 volts. So that's new and innovative. Nobody else is doing that at this point in time. I'll plant some seeds with that. So if you think about maybe ADU units, right, where you may not have 240 volts in those locations that are being developed for more, more housing. The 120 volt model is a great application for ADU units. In addition, it's a fantastic, and it's really designed for replacing gas water heaters if you don't have power available. But then if you could run 240 volts later on, you can take that 120 volt and upgrade it for a better performance. Just like the rest of the industry, we've got 5 operating modes on the product. That's pretty standard with regards to heat pump water heaters these days. Our product is already EcoPort certified. Basically what that means is, we're ready for demand response. There's a lot of great capabilities in this product in regards to demand response for utility companies and even just savvy homeowners who really want to maximize their energy usage. Noise is one thing that always comes as kind of a potential barrier when it comes to these products. Well, we've really addressed that in a big, powerful way here. Our noise level is coming in at a 41 dBA. and you'll find that's the quietest out there in the industry. So it's really whisper quiet. The refrigerant that we've targeted on this product is a really low GWP refrigerant. As a matter of fact, our GWP is less than 10. So we're forward thinking with our refrigerant that we're using. We wanted to make sure the refrigerant not only hit today's standards, but also standards that are potentially coming out in the future. So we really designed this product with the future in mind as well. It's also a great green story when it comes to the product itself, because the product's already energy efficient. Why not take it to the next level with everything else we're putting inside the product? Cold climate performance. This product actually has a variable speed compressor. It's got an inverter in there as well. So Juan, I saw that you had your earlier question about that, so we can probably talk about that on ours as well. What that means, though, is there's a lot of versatility in the product. So you can use this thing all the way up in, in North Dakota, all the way down to southern Florida as well. So it gives you that versatility because of the type of compressor and seal system we're using. Serviceability. So just like all of our other previous generations, this product here is going to be fully serviceable. So if something does go wrong ever in the future with the heat pump side, an HVAC person could come out there and fix the product versus having to take the product, pulling it out, and putting a brand new product in. So it's definitely another one of those green features that is added to the product, because that really should be tied with these kind of products is the green sustainability side of things. We've even taken our serviceability up another level from how easy it is. We've actually included in the high side and low side some access ports so that any servicer can get in there and get a hold of refrigerant and work on it with no problems. Another big feature we've got is a sensing anode rod. So anode rods are so critical when it comes to water heaters in general. So the sensing anode rod will basically alert you when it's time to replace the anode rod itself, so that the product is protected for years and years to come. And then finally, we've got a 10-year warranty on our product. Yes, thank you. So here's a look at our 40 and 50 gallon sizes. So we're going to stagger our launch. The first launch will be 40 and 50 gallons, and then we're going to follow that up with our larger 65 and 80 gallon models. But we wanted to get these out here as quickly as we could. So 40 gallons will come standard in either 120 volt or 240 volt with that integrated mixing valve. Once again, the 120 volt is field convertible. Then our 50 gallon models will have options of with or without a mixing valve inside these products. And hopefully you can see based on these first hour ratings, we've got really high first hour ratings. And more importantly, we've got really high UEF efficiency numbers. You're going to find that 4.5 is really best in class out there. So we didn't give up on product performance from first hour rating to achieve our efficiency numbers. So we're really delivering the best of both worlds here in regards to this product. All right. So flex capacity. This is really, like I said earlier, this is our integrated electronic controlled mixing valve that we put inside the product. We call it flex capacity because it's flexible in how you can use it. Let's go ahead to the next slide, Susan. So with this flex capacity, what we do is there's 3 operating modes on this. There's a normal setting, a high setting, and an extra high setting. The normal setting means basically the tank temperature matches the set point on the product. But when you use the high or the extra high sensor or setting, the tank temperature actually increases. So for example, in the extra high setting, we increase the internal tank temperature hotter than the set point that's being delivered. And what that does is that results into up to 60% more available hot water coming out of the same tank. So here's some of the benefits behind that as we think about from a home perspective and a builder perspective. Typically this industry likes to just upsize products. This kind of gives you an option, maybe not having to upsize to the next or even 2 sizes up, because you've got that flexible capacity feature that you can turn on or off. Mixing valves are a pretty standard thing out there in the industry today, but with ours integrated into the product, your installer, your plumber simply still has to just hook up a cold line and a hot line, and everything else is already factory installed. as a matter of fact, the feedback we've gotten from plumbers from the installation side is that this being pre-installed saves anywhere from 30 minutes up to 60 minutes of installation time. So it's a real dollars and cents kind of savings when you think about from the trade perspective. This feature is also perfect for demand response. Okay, so some of the other things you can think about this is utility companies could come in here, use this feature to load up the water heater with excess power when they've got excess available. Also for savvy homeowners, right, you can schedule this product so that, let's say you know your peak and off-peak times, and you could load this water heater up in the off-peak hours at a much lower energy cost, so that during the peak hours, the product doesn't even have to turn on to have that hot water available for the homeowner. And like I said, you can do that, have that setting on the Smart HQ app. You can also change the setting on this directly on the water heater itself. Go ahead, next slide. And so speaking of our Smart HQ app, here's just kind of an overview of the app, what it looks like on your phone. And this particular slide is highlighting the scheduling feature that I was just talking about, as well as the capacity feature that we talked about with that flex capacity, the ability to turn it on, turn it off, put it in normal, high, or extra high mode. Think of our scheduling feature like what you see on Nest or Ecobee thermostats, right? You can schedule this thing Monday through Friday at maybe to be loading up for extra water available in the morning, and maybe Saturday and Sunday it's more in the afternoon or the evening when you need that extra water. Let's go to the next slide. Here are some of the top features on the Smart HQ app in regards to energy, and specifically around the heat pump water heater. We've got more features available than this, but these are just kind of some of the top ones about what you can do to interact with the product, to make changes with the product, all from the convenience of your phone, wherever you are in the house, down at the neighbor's house, 2 states, 3 states, half a country away, wherever you are. Let's go to the next slide. So here is the leak detection that I mentioned earlier. So what we have done is, a lot of other water heaters have leak detect built into the product itself. It's a great feature to have around a water heater. We've taken this to the next level with our wireless leak detection. So if you see that little blue puck in the photo there on the right-hand side in that hand, that's the wireless module. Every unit comes with one of those modules. And then there's a shutoff valve up on top of the water heater itself. So you can place that detector at the base of the water heater. Maybe you could place it over near the drain in the same room. So if there's something else that uses the same drain in the room, you can get notified if there's something going on there. So if it does sense water, what we do is we'll actually shut off the water flow on the hot side of the house, so that downstream, if there is a leak, everything is shut off. And we didn't stop there, by the way. So we actually have the ability to add 2 more sensors to the product. And why would we do that? Because that means that now you can take another sensor, put it somewhere else in the house. So you take the sensor number 2, you put it up in the laundry room. Sensor number 3, maybe you put it under the kitchen sink. And then that way you're alerted if there's a leak anywhere else in the house where you've put these sensors. And then if it happens to be a hot leak, well, guess what? Now the hot water line going to that location is shut off. So they connect up simply with Bluetooth. So they're really, really easy to connect and pair up to the water heater itself. So this is a pretty cool, innovative feature we've taken to this leak detection kind of capability. Now I want to kind of point out, so everybody's coming off of the KBIS, the IBIS show that just happened, and we were recognized as one of the finalists in the best energy efficient product category. So it was really great to have this product nominated for that, and to be part of the selection process for this at that large show. So it was a really good honor. Okay, Susan. And final slide here, just once again, a quick little video. Once again, some of Melissa's handiwork here and getting everything kind of pulled together. But, there's 2 things I'll leave you with on this one. is the fact that with our best new efficiency and everything else, you can pump up your efficiency, and with that mixing valve included in the product, you can flex your capacity to make this product do way more than what's out there today. And with that, that is all I have to share.
Thank you so much, Dan. Very interesting product advancements there. We'd like to open up the floor for any questions about Dan's presentation. I'm going to stop sharing here. And does anyone have any questions? Vladimir, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Hi, Dan. I hear some echo. So my question is about the refrigerant you're using. Can you tell us what is the actual refrigerant and which category, how is it classified? You know, there's a classification for refrigerants. Which category, which classification rather is it in?
Yeah, so it's categorized as an A2L refrigerant.
Is it A2L?
Yeah, and once again, the reason we went with this is we were looking at current standards. We're also looking at future standards and things that other states are looking at as well. Like, for example, I know there's the discussion in New York about targeting really low GWP refrigerants. So our product, as launched, will be ready for that change when that hits in 2027, 2028 timeframe. So.
And what is the amount of refrigerant that's in one of your water heaters?
I'm going to lean in on Craig for that. Craig, do you have a range for that?
Yeah, it's 850 grams. It's or around 30 ounces in English units. That's well within the limits of this particular refrigerant in terms of indoor use and safety wise. It's well within.
Did you say 815 grams?
850 grams.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
And Paul, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Dan, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but just for the team's sake, where is it that you're producing the products? And then when will they be available and where?
Yeah, so thank you, Paul. I thought you were going to ask me the GeoSpring question, which I failed to kind of hit up on. But when we first launched our product, our brand name for the product is called GeoSpring. And we've had such good response on that name that we decided to keep that name, and the response we've had because we kept the name is everybody is loving that. But yeah, so us as a global manufacturing company, we've got options about where we can build and manufacture product. So this heat pump is going to be manufactured in the same location that we're making our current electric products today, just because that makes sense for us. Availability wise, we're getting ready to go in production now, so availability is right around the corner for us, which is fantastic. If we think about the channels that we serve where you could find this product, obviously with home builders, there's that option with the GE appliance side, but we're heavy into distributor channels, like so the plumbers can go there and pick up the product as well. And smaller retailers too. But anyway, that's kind of our channel where you can find the product.
Oh, that's great. Are you guys taking pre-orders?
Actually, we are. Yes, we're right on the edge of starting those kind of conversations. How many can we sign you up for, Paul?
Well, I'll let you. We'll talk later.
Okay.
And Dean, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks. Do you happen to know, Dan, what the minimum installation volume is? That's been a recurring topic on these calls.
Yeah, so with us, we're going to recommend from a cubic foot perspective, 700. Craig, is that right? 700 or 750?
700 cubic foot if it's
Okay.
totally closed, closed room. Anything less than that, you can open the air exchange with louvers, and we have different recommendation in terms of amount to open for louvers or crack door and the location of those intake and outtake in terms of louvers for if you got installing the less than the recommended space of 700 cubic foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And Dean, we've also got a ducting kit if somebody wants to duct to and from another room as well. We've also got that available too.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Dan, for the presentation and for our guests who have asked questions. And with that, I'd like to pass the microphone over to our special guest presenter, Vladimir. And Vladimir, would you like to go ahead and share your presentation slides now?
Let me try.
All right.
Let me know when they come up.
They're up.
All right, great. Again, my name is Vladimir. I'm with the National Association of Home Builders, and Susan asked Paul and I to come and speak with you about the 2024 IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code, and specifically about how 2024 IECC incorporates provisions for heat pump water heaters. Okay, hold on, something is not working correctly here. All right, here we go. So just a quick reminder that ICC publishes a wide range of codes. We're talking strictly here about the energy code, and it has been published last year, I think in August. Again, a reminder that the energy provisions in the IECC are based on climate zones. And what we'll talk about today with regard to heat pump water heaters, they're also climate zone dependent. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a couple of minutes. So we have a couple of examples, by the way, for kind of how to comply with some of the provisions of 2024 IECC, and our examples will be based on climate zone 5A specifically. So again, just as a reminder, the 2024 IECC is the first ICC code, any code, but particularly energy code, that is developed through a consensus process rather than their governmental, I should say, standards development consensus process rather than the governmental consensus process. It was done by two separate committees, one for residential, one for commercial. Today, I'm only going to cover provisions of the residential IECC. The committee took a lot of time to come up with these provisions. It was over 2 years of deliberations and meetings and ballots and public comments and even appeals at the end. But the document ultimately was published in August of 2024. I think it's a very good product at the end of the day after all of that hard work that a lot of people put into this document. So it's about 6 to 7% more energy efficient compared to the 2021 IECC, and DOE does this determination every time a new code gets published. They do analysis and they publish these numbers. And just in summary, kind of what are some of the key changes for 2024 IECC? Yes, it's more stringent in terms of efficiency, but it does have more design options and also more design flexibility if you go into the performance path. So just kind of, 40,000 foot level, prescriptive provisions are, kind of the fundamental piece of the residential provisions of the IECC. And so the way it's set up now, it's a little different from our traditional codes, is that yes, there is a set of prescriptive mandatory requirements that everybody has to follow. So that's the legacy part of the code. But then there is this new section R408. There was a version of that in 2021. It was a much smaller version, but the R408, these what they call additional requirements in 2024 code, that's a list of options. I think it's over 50 different options that a designer, a builder can choose from Now it's optional in terms of it doesn't tell you which provisions to use, but it is required in terms of that you have to use some of them, and we'll get into more detail on that. So again, it's kind of it's a tiered format, so to speak. Now consists of here's the mandatory provisions, but here are some optional provisions that you have to still implement, but you have flexibility which ones you want to implement. So the performance path, obviously, still exists in the energy code. It's section R405, and it is different from the from the performance path from the last few cycles. Now you can include efficiency of equipment. That's your space heating, space cooling, water heating, duct location, duct performance. All of that now can be part of your model that you use to optimize your design. So again, the way it works, you have your mandatory baseline, which is based on the prescriptive path, and it's based on minimum efficiency equipment. It's based on ducts primarily located outside of conditioned space, unless you have a house in the basement, conditioned basement specifically, and then then it puts ducts 75% into conditioned space for your baseline. And once you have the baseline set, you can do your modeling, and this equipment and all of the equipment now is part of that model and exercise and part of the trade-offs that you can do. And water heating is one of those features that you can include in your design. And the other performance path, the energy rating index, that's been in the code for a while as well, but in 2024 IECC we were able to fix some of the issues that kind of just happened with the earlier code versions that were getting in the way of folks using this path through the code for code compliance. So hopefully all of this has been resolved. Again, it's different from the standpoint that it does not have a prescriptive baseline. It's a little bit different the way the modeling happens there. I mean, it has a baseline, but it's set up differently compared to the section R405, and it relies on resident 301 standard. And again, water heating is a part of that model, and then you have to meet specific ARI targets that the code establishes. But most of the presentation we're going to spend today talking about the prescriptive path specifically and the prescriptive requirements for the residential IECC 2024. All right, what's on the next slide here? So I'll spend a little bit of time talking about that section R408 that I mentioned earlier. Again, that's that add-on, so to speak, piece for the prescriptive path on top of the mandatory requirements. And so again, the way the code is set up, it has the mandatory provisions, right? And that's what I'm kind of showing here. These are all of the different pieces of the mandatory sections that you absolutely have to do. Everybody has to do these things, right? And then this is the additional measures, these are the categories of additional measures that the code has. And what's interesting is that for some of these measures, there's a corresponding measure both in the mandatory piece and in the additional measures piece. Like, for example, heating and cooling, right? The basic code will, assumes that you're using your federal efficiency minimums as far as equipment. And if you want to get credits from section R408, again, it's a credits-based section, then you have to install equipment of higher efficiency than the federal minimums. And if you do that, then you're going to get credit for doing that. Similar for water heating, right? For water heating, obviously, you're going to install water heaters, and the code doesn't, in the mandatory section, doesn't tell you much except that you know that you have to install minimum efficiency, minimum federal efficiency water heater. But if you want to get credit, then you come to section additional measures R408, and it will specify a higher efficiency water heater that you would have to use. And we'll talk about that in more detail in a minute. Now, it's also interesting that section R408 has additional measures that do not have a corresponding measure in the base code. Like, one of them is appliances. So again, base code doesn't really talk about appliances or on-site renewable systems, but you can get credit for using high efficiency appliances. So it's not really meant for you guys to read. I know it's very small font here, but it's, again, just kind of a list of some of the, not the exhaustive list, but some of the measures that are included in section R408, additional efficiency requirements. So what are some of the characteristics of this section? Again, it's a credit-based system. It requires that you achieve at least 10 credits from at least 2 measures. Again, there's a total of about 50 measures available to you. And the credits are calculated for each measure by climate zone. So each measure, each climate zone, gonna have its unique number of credits based on energy savings. So those credits were calculated by the Pacific Northwest Laboratory, again, strictly based on energy savings of implementing that feature, that measure in that climate zone. So what section R408 is meant for is to offer flexibility in achieving compliance. So rather than try to add more mandatory measures to the base code that everybody has to comply with, the decision that the committee has made, let's offer a wide range of measures and let designers choose what makes most sense for them. Now, what's different about section R408, that a lot of these measures, they may not necessarily be cost effective per se, and cost effectiveness has not been evaluated for all of these measures. So some of them are going to be more cost effective than others, obviously, but the whole point of R408 is to give multiple compliance paths with the idea that there are some compliance paths that will be cost effective for you in all cases, or at least in most cases. There may be measures here that, again, are not practical in all situations in some building configurations, and that's why, again, they exist in R408 as an option, but they potentially could never be part of the base code. One of the real incentives for doing the section R408 has always been bringing high efficiency equipment, because that's typically going to be one of the more cost-effective measures. Bring them into the code. But because of federal preemption, we can't really bring it into the code as a requirement. But this is kind of a clever way of doing that without violating federal preemption, because section R408 does offer other compliance paths that do not require for you to use high efficiency equipment if you don't want to. And then, so the requirement piece of R408 is that you have to achieve, again, the 10 credits, and you have to implement 2 of the measures. And so that's the requirement. So this is an example, a little bit of the table from just a little section of it. That's not the entire table, obviously. From the code. And as you can see, so what you see on the left there are the measures or the practices, and then across the top, you see different climate zones. And then the numbers in the table, these are the credits that are assigned to each measure for each climate zone. So for water heaters, electric water heaters specifically, there are 5 options for you to get credit. And we'll talk about them in a minute. And then again, the points, for example, we're talking about climate zone 5. That's the examples that we're going to be from there. So you can see that like for climate zone 5, for different options, you can get anywhere between 5 to 7 credits for doing this. Now, interestingly, obviously, if you look at warmer climate zones for heat pump water heaters, you do see more credits. Like for example, in climate zone 3, the code was going to give you 11 credits across all of them, actually. Yeah, no, actually 12. One of them was 12. So somewhere between 11 and 12 compared to 5 to 7 in climate zone 5. And the reason for that is that the heat pump itself is going to be more efficient. I think probably because the water is going to be coming in at a warmer temperature, but also because the overall energy use is going to be a little bit less. And so the water heating is a bigger part of the overall energy use, because these numbers are all based on percentage of savings relative to the entire energy use for the house. So basically where it says it's 5 points, it means 5 credits. What it means is that by installing this measure, you're going to save about roughly, it's not never exact, but you expect to save about 5% of energy use per year. And there is no, the code doesn't impose any restrictions for how you combine different measures from section R408. All right, so these are the 5 electric water heaters options that are available to you in the 2024 IECC and the credits associated with them. Again, this is for climate zone 5. The number is going to change as far as not the practice itself, but the number of credits will change based on the climate zone. And so the option number 1, your heat pump water heater needs to have an UEF of at least 3.3. And by the way, I think these numbers were pulled by the committee from Energy Star specification. I'm not sure if the Energy Star spec changed since then, but at least at the time, I think that was the one that was either issued or soon to be issued spec for heat pump water heaters. Now, the second option is that's the 120 volt, 15 amp circuit, and then talk to, like, for example, they have that option as well. So you have an option to install it. The difference is that the minimum efficiency is actually lower for that option compared to the primary option there. There are a couple of options for split systems, split units, heat pump water heaters. And again, depending on the efficiency, you get different number of credits. In this particular case, the credits actually the same, but I'm sure for other climate zones, it's probably different. And it just depends on how that particular unit interacts with the building in that climate zone. And then the final one, those are bigger units. I think they're meant for multifamily. But for most users, it's going to be option 1. That's your standard heat pump water heater, and the minimum efficiency is 3.3. So that, let's say if it's a 3.2, then you're not going to be able to get credit. You can still install it, right? It's code compliant, so to speak. It's compliant with federal regulations and everything. You're just not going to get the credit in section R408. So it's important to understand that, again, these efficiencies are not required by the code in terms of as minimum requirements. These are only required if you want to get these credits for installation of these units. All right, another interesting kind of provision that's in 2024 that unique and different, but it was put there, there on purpose. So I'll try to explain it. It's a little tricky. So it only applies to climate zones 4 and 5. And what the committee realized that some of the prescriptive wall insulation requirements were very aggressive for these climate zones for walls specifically. It's talking about walls. And they wanted to put a trade-off directly into the prescriptive path, so that folks didn't have to go into the performance methods to be able to implement this trade-off. And so what the committee did, it said that rather than requiring prescriptively an R20 plus 5 wall system in climate zones 4 and 5, you can go ahead and use your R20 wall system but you have to make it up, right? So there's no free lunch here. You can go ahead and, you can use R20, and it's going to be acceptable, in these climate zones, but you have to do something to make it up. And so there are these 4 different options that are offered to you for how to make it up. And one of them is just simply get more credits from this, from section R408. Like the base requirement, again, as I mentioned before, was 10 credits, 10. Here they said you can do R20 wall, but then you have to have actual 3 additional credits for a total of 13 credits. Or they said that you can implement certain heat pumps, whether space heating or water heating heat pumps, that meet those higher efficiency requirements. So it's not your minimum heat pump for water heating or minimum heat pump for space heating. It has to be something that meets those higher thresholds in section R408. Like typically for the water heater, it's going to be Energy Star. I think for space heating, it's probably also Energy Star spec or something similar. Or you can also install an on-site renewable system. And those are your options. But what's interesting here, and we're going to go through examples, that now the code has, this trade-off built right into the prescriptive path that allows you to trade between equipment which can be water heating, can be a water heater, and your envelope. All right, so let's go through a couple of examples. I have here both, Paul put together some examples for gas homes and for electric homes, just to kind of try to paint full picture here. All right, so let's say it's a gas house, mixed fuel, I should say, house in climate zone 5. You have an R20 wall, and you install 97% gas furnace, 97 AFU gas furnace. You're going to get 6 credits for that. You're going to have a high efficiency gas water heater instantaneous. You're going to get 6 credits. You're also going to implement high efficiency appliances. You're going to get 1 credit for it. And then you hit your 13 credits. And that's how you're going to achieve compliance with the 2024 IECC for that particular house. Now let's look again, still a mixed fuel house, gas house, but a slightly different combination of variables. You're going to put 80% of ducts into conditioned space. In climate zone 5, you're going to get 7 credits. You're going to put a more efficient storage gas water heater, 5 credits, again, appliances, and you're going to get your 13 credits. Now we're going to switch gears and we'll talk about what if your house is electric. And again, R20 walls, and you're using a cold climate heat pump. Just for using a cold climate heat pump, you get 12 credits. So you're already above your limit of 10 credits. So you're already meeting that requirement of 10 credits. But because R408 requires at least 2 practices, no matter how many credits you get, you have to get 2 practices. So you need to do something else. So again, we're going to put high efficiency appliances in there to get, it will give us extra credit, a total of 13 credits. But in this case, we actually did not need all 13. We only needed 10. But the next one, that's the last example, the most relevant to today's session is, again, electric house. We're going to put a heat pump water heater. And in that climate zone, it's actually only going to give us 4 credits. So that's not enough, right? But because we are using a heat pump water heater and R20 wall, we only need to get ourselves to 10 credits. So by also moving 80% of ducts into conditioned space, it's going to give us 7 credits for a total of 11 credits. And now we meet the requirement, we meet the code, and we are in compliance. And now we're coming up on time. Just to, one more slide here. We've done some training on the 2024 IECC, and actually we helped develop a training program that's been implemented by Builders Association in the state of Rhode Island. And the purpose of that was just to help them with implementation of the code that they've adopted. They were the first state in the country that adopted 2024 before it was even published. And so any questions at this point? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Vladimir. Really very interesting movement with the codes. And I think this group is a forward-thinking group. And so having these insights, I think, will be very helpful. Does anyone have any questions for our special guest? I know we're coming.
Great presentation. Can we get a copy of Vladimir's presentation? That'd be great.
Yes, we'll be sharing the recording of this presentation. I agree, Vladimir. I think that we're going to have a lot of people interested in watching and rewatching this presentation to fully take in all the information that you provided.
Thank you for the presentation.
And yeah, feel free to reach out with questions after the fact. Obviously, 2024 IECC is still a new code. Some jurisdictions are looking at it. Now I live in the state of Maryland. I know state of Maryland, by statute is required to adopt one of the recent codes, and so they're going to be looking at the 2024 IECC soon. So it really depends on where you are.
Yeah, and if anyone's aware of any conversation happening in the states that you're working in on the 2024 IECC, please put it in the chat or send us an email to let us know. We'd be interested in knowing about that. All right, and Vladimir, do you mind if I take control back of the slides? Great, thank you. We just have a couple minutes of time left, and I just wanted to mention that being in a new year now, we're giving some thought to where things are going. We would love to hear from our builders about any proactive water heating changes in the works, and if there's a way for us to help. We'd also like to hear from you about what you'd like to have from these calls. Are there any topics that we should cover? Are there any presenters that you would like to see during this time? And also just would like to check in with you again about how often we should meet. Should we meet every other month? Should we meet quarterly? Also, many of you may know Paul and I will check in with you and offer time for one-on-one calls to see if you have any stories to share with us or any questions, because I know sometimes your needs may be very specific to your organization. We also want to offer that one-on-one time. So we're at time now. Paul, is there anything you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
No, I just would echo your offer of doing the one-offs with individual home builders and hosting those conversations. We've always found those so productive, so we appreciate everybody's willingness to do that as an offset to these group meetings too. So thank you.
Yes, and Vladimir, would you like to say one more thing before we go?
Yeah, I'm just looking through the chat and I see that Dan posed the question for, can you get points, I guess, for high efficiency heat pump water heaters? And I have not seen anything like that yet. I think the way to do it would be to go through the performance path where you can really dial in and, use the efficiency of the piece of equipment that you have. Prescriptive is never going to be perfect in terms of, it's not going to give you full credit always for everything you're doing. That's where the performance path really comes in. But then if you do want to try something like that, you can submit a proposal in the future for the maybe even 2030 at this point, IECC. Maybe there's a chance for 2027 still, I'm not sure, but maybe. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Talk with you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.